Hello, and welcome to join us at Boise State University in the community. My name is Emma Hyppä, and I am your host tonight. I have Dr. Mary Pritchard here joining us tonight. It's great to have you here, Dr. Pritchard.
Thank you so much for having me, Emma.
Thank you for coming. So, you are a professor of psychology here at Boise State.
I am.
What brought you to Boise?
The job, actually. I knew I wanted to come back to the Rocky Mountain region. I went to University of Denver for graduate school, and I had moved to Indiana after that, and I missed the mountains. So when this job came open, I said, hire me, and here, 12 and a half years later, here I am.
That's awesome. What classes do you teach in Boise State? What is your main focus at teaching?
My main focus is the psychology of eating. That's what my research is. So I teach that. I teach community psychology, social psychology, and health psychology.
Right. I know you are also an author, blogger, researcher, and how does all this connect to the study of psychology?
It's all interconnected for me. And my big message is really to get people to relearn how to love their bodies and themselves and improve their relationship with themselves. And we start as early as we can because society has so many negative messages out there that affect us.
Right.
And it just kind of all goes in together. So when I blog for Psychology Today or Huffington Post, it's the same kind of message of positive psychology about really learning to love and accept yourself as you are.
Right. How do you think social media affects this problem?
Oh, it's huge. I've actually done some research on that. So we're looking now at, it's not only websites, it's Pinterest, it's Snapchat, it's Instagram, it's Facebook. There's so many messages out there that have idealized images that we're comparing ourselves to, that it's become a real problem, especially with our younger girls and boys and teenagers, because they're getting this idea that this is what I'm supposed to look like, because they're surrounded by it,
right.
And yet it's not realistic.
Right, the media is huge when it comes from like all corners. So let's talk about Girls on the Run.
Okay.
And outside of being a professor of psychology here at Boise, you are involved with this organization called Girls on the Run.
I am.
And what is the organization about?
So it's close to my heart because it's a self-esteem building organization for girls in 3rd through 8th grade. And so when I first learned about the organization, it's actually a national organization, but they have a local chapter. So when I first learned about that, I said, how can I get involved? Because that's the exact message that I want to give out, is how can we teach our kids to not fall down into the trap of body image dissatisfaction, eating disorders, not liking what they see when they look in the mirror. We've got to get them young, and we've got to teach them that what they see in media is not reality. And so that's what it really attracted me to Girls on the Run in the first place, because their mission is to help build up girls' self-esteem right at a point when it naturally falls. So most girls start to have a dive in their self-esteem in the preteen years, and that stays pretty low until they get past college, and then it starts to raise again.
Right. What is your target age for girls to join this organization?
So 3rd through 8th grade, and so it's anywhere from 8 to about 14.
Okay. So how and when did you get involved with Girls on the Run?
So funny story. I was teaching psychology of health in a require service learning, and I had a student athlete in the class who was on track, the cross-country track and field, and she had discovered Girls on the Run, I think through her coach at that time. This is about 8 years ago, because they were the track and field and cross country wanted to go out and do something good in the community to help, individuals. And because it was a running organization, they decided that they wanted to help Girls on the Run. So she's the one who introduced me to the local chapter. I didn't even know that we had one in Boise, Idaho. And so she asked if she could do her service learning there, and I said yes, of course. And then at the same time, I got involved myself because I loved the message of empowering girls.
That's great. Yeah, so I'm also a student at Boise State and a student athlete, and I've done some volunteering for Girls on the Run, and it was this fashion show for the girls.
Yes.
And the girls were just amazing and so excited to walk on the stage with student athletes.
Yes, it was such a great thrill
experience
for them.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and I could do it anytime again. It was great. So what is your role on Girls on the Run? What does your work consist of?
I've done a variety of things. I've been a coach. I've been one of their fundraisers. I run their Soulmates program, which is the adult arm of Girls on the Run. It's kind of like team in training. So it's adults who want to run and raise money for Girls on the Run, because the majority of our girls are actually on scholarship, because we're in a lot of Title I schools, so that's low socioeconomic status. And so we try to make sure that our motto actually is we don't turn a girl away for financial reasons. And so
that's great.
If a girl can't afford to pay, as about 60% of our girls are on full scholarship, and then another 20% or so are on partial scholarship, we're not going to turn them away. And so we were trying to find a way to fundraise. So we started what's called the Soulmates program. And that's where adults can get involved, and just like Team in Training, they can run a marathon or a half marathon or a 5K or a 10K and raise money for Girls on the Run to go toward the scholarship fund for girls in the area.
Wow, that's amazing. So what kind of goals does Girls on the Run have as a whole, or you individually, while being involved with them?
It's about seeing the evolution of the girls. And so it's a 10-week program. We run one in fall and one in spring to coincide with their semesters. And really, we're taking them through 10 weeks worth of lessons. So it's part learning about how not to bully and not gossip and be a good role model and fight media influence and all of those things that'll help build their self-esteem. At the same time, it is a self-esteem building organization, so we want to teach them how to make and set realistic goals, SMART goals.
Right.
And so we train them to run a 5K. Now, they may not run. Some of them skip the whole way. Some of them do cartwheels. Some of them walk half. Some of them actually get out there and run a lot faster than we adults can keep up with them. But the point is to help build their confidence by giving them a goal that is, when they start out, seems huge and monumental, because most of them have never really run, other than in recess playing.
Yeah.
They've never set a goal to run 3 miles, and 3.1 miles seems like forever.
Yeah.
And such a long distance when you're 8. And
Right.
so we gradually, as we do these lessons, part of the practice is the lessons, and part of the practice is just training them, conditioning them to build up to their goal of actually finishing that 5K.
Right. What does a typical week of Girls on the Run look like?
So we meet twice a week. So the first half of each lesson is going to be the actual lesson. So
Right.
we teach them about bullying or gossiping or how to say no to peer pressure. And then the second half is going to be the warm up and the actual running or skipping or crawling or picking flowers or whatever they decide they're in the mood for that day.
Right. So how many people are involved with Girls on the Run in Boise and in national level?
So nationally, I'm not sure. At the Treasure Valley, we are in 25 schools, and we service about 350 girls a semester. Some of them are repeats, so some of them love the program so much they just continue to come back semester after semester until they graduate, so to speak, and they can't do it anymore because we're not at the high school level. Nationally, it's in all 50 states, and depending on the state, they have different numbers of councils, different number of schools that they're in. So nationally, it's got to be tens of thousands if we're serving 350 a semester.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So it seems like eating disorder prevention is a major theme in this organization, and just getting the self-esteem and body image.
It is. We
Very
don't
healthy.
talk about eating disorders per se, because we don't want to instill any kind of stereotypes or any misconceptions in the girls. We do talk about what it means to be healthy. So there's a lesson on nutrition, and we talk about the food groups. We talk about healthy levels of activity. We don't want to talk with that age about eating disorders and anorexia and bulimia, because it's not really appropriate. But we do talk about being healthy and how to be active and how to choose healthier choices when you're in the lunchroom or at the dinner table.
Yeah. How do you think your own research and this being involved with Girls on the Run have in common? How do they connect?
I think they connect 100%, because for me, I work mainly with adults who have been struggling their entire lives in my research, and I've known all along that prevention is so much more effective than treatment. We know that. And so the message that Girls on the Run gives is everything that I have to try to teach 20, 30 years later to the adults that I work with. because it's the same message about really learning to love and accept
Exactly.
who you are and to build your self-esteem up, so you're not so reliant on what you see when you look in the mirror being the soul of what defines you.
Yeah, that is really, really important. So how does Girls on the Run collaborate with BSU, and how is there any volunteering opportunities for students? Or
Absolutely. So Boise State has a number of sororities. Each of these sororities has a philanthropy. So Alpha Sigma Alpha has Girls on the Run as their local philanthropy. And so there's a lot of involvement between the sorority and Girls on the Run. The girls are coaches, they're running buddies, they fundraise. The fashion show that you did was actually a fundraiser put on by Alpha Sigma Alpha to raise money for scholarships for Girls on the Run.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Shoes Running Company is also a local sponsor for us, so he does just wonderful things for us, and he backs us up by making sure that the girls are appropriately clothed and have appropriate footwear, because we're in a lot of Title I schools and the girls just can't simply afford to have new clothes or new shoes that we might take for granted. He does an excellent job of making sure that every girl has what she needs to do the program.
That's great. How do you think we can promote this healthy body image and this athletic lifestyle among children and teenagers, and what kind of results does Girls on the Run have over the years?
Yeah, so I think it's programs like Girls on the Run. Girls on the Run is not the only organization out there for kids that is trying to promote being healthy. Boys and Girls Club does it, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, they all have arms of their various programs that focus on being healthy and doing the same kinds of things Girls on the Run does. And I think really, it does take a village, because we're fighting so much with media influence and societal influence. The more we can get messages about positive body esteem and being healthy to kids, the better off it's going to be. So from brain science standpoint, messages that are negative are 5 times more powerful than positive ones. So we have a 5 times harder job at correcting a negative message once it's already occurred. So the point of Girls on the Run and similar programs is to just make sure that we're surrounding these kids with messages of positivity, because they may not be getting it anywhere else. They may not be getting it at home. They may not be getting it in school. They may not be getting it from social media or whatever TV shows that they're watching.
Right.
So I think the more we can get out there targeting kids when they're in that really critical age and developing their own sense of self, the better off all of us are going to be, because healthy kids make healthy parents, and then in turn they're going to have healthy kids.
Yeah, are you able to educate the parents as well? Because it's pretty important to have a healthy role models at home.
So the parents have a parent guide. The question is, do they read it? So there are parent meetings. Getting the parents there is always a challenge, especially because we're in so many Title I schools. A lot of the parents are working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet for financial reasons. So we do reach out to parents. We do offer them opportunities to be involved in the program. We encourage that, but getting them there may not always happen.
Right. So I've read some of your research about eating disorders and about self-love and healthy body image, and as you were saying, that they were really important. They're really important issues.
So.
And can you share some central ideas from your research over the years?
Oh, wow. I think alarming statistics is probably the way I want to go with that. So just to kind of give you an idea of how big the problem is, 80% of 10-year-old girls have already been on a weight loss diet. At 10, their bodies are still developing. They shouldn't be restricting calories. They shouldn't be obsessively exercising. We're starting to see anorexia nervosa develop in girls as young as 6. This is a huge problem. And it's not like it's just in Boise, Idaho. This is a nationwide issue. And so those individuals like myself that are on the other end of the spectrum doing research and trying to do prevention work, the numbers we're fighting against are really shocking. When we look at the college age population, 90 to 95% of women, 80% of men don't like what they see when they look in the mirror. It's become normative in society. Fat shaming has become normative in society. Yeah. This is not okay, because we're just perpetuating these stereotypes that it's okay to make fun of people based on what they look like. Now we're seeing 3 to 5-year-olds already starting to label people based on whether they're skinny or fat. that's a problem.
Yeah, I feel like some of the goals or what media shows, they're just like impossible to reach, and it's very sad, especially the modeling or singers or actors. Like, it's just the role models are not necessarily healthy.
They're not, and then when you add Photoshop and other manipulation techniques onto that, I mean, what we see on magazine covers isn't even real. So now we have this thing this goal that we're trying to attain, that the models don't look like that.
Right. So you've been working with college students for a long time now.
20 years, yes.
Wow. So have you noticed any difference or development of eating disorders and body image among young students?
I have. The interesting thing is that for women, it's staying pretty stable in the college age. For women, we're seeing a rise in eating disorders in young girls and in women in their perimenopausal and menopausal years, so 40s, 50s, and 60s. We're seeing a boom in eating disorders in those two groups. For men, we are seeing a steady increase across all ages. Again, it's starting young, starting about 8 to 10 for boys with body image dissatisfaction. And now we're seeing a lot more eating disorders in men that 10 or 20 years ago didn't exist. And most of it is due to the media pressure to be muscular. So eating disorders in men look very different than eating disorders in women.
Right. How do you think an organization called like Girls on a Run could prevent this? Or has it done anything to?
You know, it's interesting because for the past several years, we're getting calls from parents and actually from boys who keep saying, when is there going to be a Boys on the Run? Because we're acknowledging the fact that men and boys are receiving more and more pressure in today's society. So Girls on the Run at current juncture does not have a plan to add a boys arm. Staffing, resources, they're just not there. But they're trying to work with organizations like Boys and Girls Club that cater to both boys and girls to try to get some of that positive messaging in where we have organizations that are working with both boys and girls, because it's needed.
Yeah, and maybe in families they can, if girls have siblings, they can just talk about it more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who is interested in getting involved with Girls on the Run and maybe helping or doing something for them?
I think first thing is going to be go to the website, because you can apply right there to be a volunteer. And there's a number of things that our volunteers do. They could coach, they could be a running buddy, they could help us fundraise, they can go out to the sites and work with the girls and help them with their practice 5K. They can be the cheering squad for their final 5K. It takes a village to make this program happen. And so there are tons of volunteer opportunities. Go to the website and check it out.
Thank you for telling me about that. Thank you for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
Dr. Mary Pritchard. I am your host, Emma Hupa, and this was Boise State University in the Community. Bye.